Hello there, my name's Tina Maxim, and I will be teaching you how to use your 6930 desktop device and your voicemail. Let's get started. If you look here on the screen, you will see a 6930 phone set, and that's what all of you are getting. I'm going to go over the layout of the phone initially, and then we'll actually start using it. So at the top of the phone, you're going to have your extensions. The date and time is going to always be here when it's idle. And then on the right, for you guys, we have programmed up a group hold 1 and 2, which I'll cover later on in class. At the very top, you see also appearance of your extension. And to the right, this is where you know kind of what the health of the phone is. You've got, these are IP phones, so that's why you've got what looks like 3 little computers up here to let you know that it is connected to the network and your network's up and running. The icon you see right there to the left of that, that's an icon for missed call. And icons will pop up there depending on what's going on with the phone. Now, the blank keys that you see here, they are ones where you can program speed dials on. And I'll show you that in class also. And then down here towards the bottom of the screen, this gray bar, this is interactive. You would be using the keys below. But what you'll notice is depending on what we're trying to do with the caller, meaning transfer them, set up a conference, that type of thing, your options down on the gray bar will change. Then below the gray bar, you have your keypad and fixed keys on the left and the right. And then we have the navigation wheel over here. Now the navigation wheel is going to take us from, this is page 1, and you can tell because it has the dot in the center. If I press it to the right one time, it pops me over to page 2. Now, you can have up to 6 pages here. What will happen is as you program things on the pages, like page 2, when that's full, the system will propagate a page 3 for you. So we're going to start using the phone so you can learn how to answer a call, how to transfer a call, just basic call handling. So if I were to call to this phone, I'm going to dial extension 2241, and you see it rings, and when it rings, it lights up both lines. Once I answer, then it's just taking up one of my lines. You'll have 2 appearances so that if you needed to place a call out, putting this person on hold, you could do so. Now, once I have this person on the line, see here on the gray bar, it says transfer, add user, and end call. And those options weren't there before. So since we have the ability to transfer this person, if I wanted to do what we call a blind transfer, which would be I'm just sending the call over to someone, and if they don't answer, it's just going to go to voicemail. All I would do is I would hit the transfer button, and I would dial their extension, and I would hang up. And if we come over to the left, we're going to see, here's the phone it's ringing on. So if I answer this phone, they can now see they're talking to Tina at extension 2242, and they now have the transfer, add user, and end call options. So over on this phone, I'm completely out of it because I completed the transfer. Now from here, if I wanted to do what we call a supervised transfer, that would be where I was going to stay on the phone and tell the person I'm transferring the call to a little bit about the caller before I transferred it over. So for that, you start out the same way by pressing the transfer key and dialing the extension, but instead of just hanging up, I'm going to wait on the line, and then I'll tell the person about the caller, and then I would press transfer a second time. So I would hit transfer, dial the number, and then when they answer, I'm connected. And if you look at the screens, you see they don't have the name Tina up there anymore because I'm on the transfer hold. So I can't hear anything until the call is sent over. So once I tell the person what I want, I hit transfer. This phone is now out of it. And now Tina's been transferred over here to the right. So as you can see, transferring, blind transfer, and supervised transfer is pretty simple to do. Now, when you're transferring somebody, you also have the ability where you might need to put them on hold. You actually have 2 types of hold on your phone. You have your personal hold, which is this one down here, one of the fixed keys, reminds me kind of like a pause button on a DVR. And to use that, I'm just going to press it. And if you look up here now on the screen, see my icon has changed. So it looks just like the actual fixed key. So it tells me here, the screen, it's saying Tina Maxim's up there. So it shows you I'm on hold. So I could then place another call. I could hit this line, call someone else, then come back to my caller. So if I wanted to go ahead and pick this person back up off the phone, all I'm going to do is hit that line, and now I'm back to the person that I had on hold. Now, from here, you also could use your group hold. And the group hold, if you'll notice, is on this phone. It's on this phone over here. For your office, it is going to be programmed up on all the phones. So what the difference is between group hold and your personal hold, you've probably already figured out, is that for the personal hold, I can only pick it back up off of my phone. But if I place them on the group hold, a caller can be picked up from any phone in the office that has a group hold key. So I would just press the key. I'm going to hang up the phone. Now, if you look over here, you can see the group hold is blinking. So if I wanted to pick the call up over here, I'm going to press the key and then lift the handset. And now Tina's been transferred over here via the group hold rather than the transfer. So you can do that. I use it for myself personally just to move around the office. But if you have a small office, you could actually just put the person on group hold and tell the other person in the office to pick up hold one, and they would have their caller. So pretty simple when it comes to using the hold buttons. So the other thing that you see on the screen when you have the transfer up here, you see it says transfer, which we've already done, but then it also says add user. So add user would be, we're trying to set up a conference call. This system can have up to 8 people on a conference, whether they be inside users or outside or a combination. So to place a person into a conference call, you've already got 2 calls on the phone, yourself and this person. So we're going to add this other phone, extension 2241, into the conference. So we hit add user, I dial their extension. They're going to answer, and when they do, you can talk to the person, the third party that you're bringing in for the conference, they don't hear anything. So what you want to look at is here on the phone for the person who was setting up the conference. You see now it says join calls. They didn't have that before. But now since we've got 3 people that we're trying to bring in together, it's asking if I want to pull everyone together, which I do. So I'm going to hit join calls. And then everybody hears a beep in their ear, and your screen changes to say 3-party conference. So now 3 of us are on the phone, but you see it's back to saying add user again. So we could then add a 4th person, a 5th person, however many we needed to, up to the 8. But from here, if you wanted to drop off the conference, then you would hit yourself the leave call button, and that would allow the other parties to stay in the conference, but you would be allowed to drop out. Anytime, remember that someone comes into the conference, everyone hears a beep in their ear. Now, one other thing that I would like you to see with the conference feature is if you're trying to pull someone into a conference and maybe you get their voicemail, well, you don't want to pull voicemail into a conference call. So what will happen, I'm going to start the steps of pulling a new person into a conference call just for you to see. So once I hit add user, see everything goes away but the word back to held. So it's saying, do you want to go back to the people you've got on conference hold? So if I get voicemail, that's what I would hit. So I'd hit back to held. And see, it takes me back to the 3-party conference that I already had set up. And that 4th person I was trying to bring in is no longer there. So that is how you set up a conference call. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about from the conference calls is programming a speed dial. So if you need to program a speed dial, which you should, you have plenty of blank buttons on the phone. I have one already programmed up here for you. But to program a speed dial is very simple. All you're going to do is hold down the key. So it just has to be a blank key, one that we haven't programmed. So I'm going to press the key down and the screen changes. And you see it changes to say label name, and then it says number. So it wants to know what name do I want to show up on the screen. So it is old cell phone technology. So what that means is if I wanted an F to show up, I'd have to hit the 3 key 3 times for the F to appear in the screen. So I'm going to put a name in here, and we're just going to put in Fran. So there's Fran. And if you needed to put a space between a first and a last name, you just hit the star key twice, and it throws a space up there for you. Then we're going to navigate down to the number, and this is where you would put the number. Now, if it's an outside caller, meaning not on the MyTel phone system, you do have to put 9 in first for outside access. And that's also how you would dial an outside number. Then after you put the 9 in, you're just going to put it in however you would normally dial the number. So if it's long distance, you would put a 1 in front. And then after you get the number in, then you've got to save it. So we're going to press save. And now, as you see, Fran is programmed up on my phone. Now, if I wanted to cancel that, I don't want Fran to be on my phone anymore, then I can just delete it just as quickly as I put it in. All you're going to do is hold the key down, and when a screen changes up, see right here, it says delete. I press delete, and now Fran is gone from my phone. So it's pretty simple to put a speed call, and you have lots of keys. Remember I said you'll have up to 6 pages. So you can program plenty of speed dials. If you're programming internal people, then you would just put in their extensions. So we've gone over transferring, putting someone on hold, conferencing, and speed dials. So now we're going to come down here, and we're going to use some of these fixed keys for you to see how they work. So the first fixed key, if I press this, that's going to take you in where you're going to be able to look at if you had built a personal directory or the corporate. Now, the corporate directory, you guys have a small office, I believe, so you probably wouldn't use this, but you would come here to corporate and you would hit search, and then you would just put in a couple letters of the person's name to pull them up. So like if I was going to put in the name Chris, and then I just hit search, and there's Chris Berry right there. So if I wanted to then call Chris, I would navigate down to his name or her name, and then I would hit dial, and it would actually call them. Now, the personal directory up here, that is where once we go into call history, then which is next, you can actually build a personal directory. I don't think you'll use it that much because you have so many blank spaces. So it's a lot easier just to program the key up, and then you can just hit the key when you need it. But if you want to look at call history, that's what this is, the key with the 2 arrows. So we press it, and it takes us to missed calls, outgoing, and received. So it's always going to default to missed when you come in. So what you need to be cognizant of is over here to the right are all these numbers. Well, if I navigate over, see you might not be able to see it that well, but there's a gray bar here. What that tells me is there's more numbers here than what are showing on my screen. So if I wanted to make sure what all the numbers are, you would just have to navigate down. But what you could do is if you come here and then I press the center of the navigation wheel, that there's no number there for it, for it's private. But if I wanted to call the person, then I could actually just hit dial and it would call the person. So the other thing that you have here, besides missed, is outgoing and received. So anytime you're looking for a number, somebody's that maybe called you earlier in the day, some people have a tendency when they call, they'll call you, but they might not leave a voice message. You could come here to the call history and look under missed, and you'd be able to call them. So if we close out of here, the next key that we have is the voicemail key, and there is a bug crawling on the handset. The voicemail key, we're going to come back to that at the end of class. But below that, this is your settings key. So it's like you do a little bit of programming. So we're going to hit this. And when you press the programmable key or the gear, it's always going to come to status in the center of the phone. And then from there, you'll either navigate left or right, depending on what you're trying to do. So if I'm trying to look at the display, because there's only a couple things in here that I think you'll use. One is the display piece. So we're going to navigate over until we see display. And here it is. So then I can either hit the center of the wheel or I can hit the word select, doesn't matter. And it's taking me in now. When it comes from the factory, the phone is going to always be at level 1. And for the video, I kind of have to keep it at level 1 because it brightens up the screen so much, it's just like a glare. But for you, you're probably going to want to bring up the level to about a 3 or a 4. And to do that, you see here in the center of the gray bar, there's an arrow. You just press that, and it starts brightening it up. And then you get it to where you want it, and you press save. And then you've saved the setting. Now, if you navigate to the left of the display, you come to audio. The audio will allow you to change your ringer so it's different from the person that sits near you. And you can set a different ringtone for an external call versus an internal call. The other piece in the audio is if you're going to use a headset, then you would need to navigate down and see where it says where it says audio path. You click here, and you'd want to change it from speaker to headset and then press save. The reason for that is because the fixed key at the bottom that has the horn and the headset on it, initially, like if I press it now, it's a speaker key. But if I was using a headset, I could make it so that when I pressed it the first time, it would give me dial tone in my headset. But that's only going to work if when I'm in here under the audio, I actually adjust the audio path to go to the headset. So now back up here on the ringtones, if I press here, see this is internal, I can come to the right and I can change it to whatever I want, hit save, and now my ringtone is set to what I want. The only other thing in the programming or settings key that I think you'll probably use would be call forwarding. And call forwarding is to the left when you come into the screen. Remember I said it's always going to bring you in here to status. Well, right beside that is the call forward icon. So we're going to go in there. And from here, this is where you can choose what type of forwarding. I normally just do always. But what you would do is you would put the extension number that you want your call to be forwarded to. So I'm going to put in, and then I have to come over to the box beside it, and I have to hit the center of the wheel, and that puts a check mark in the box. If you don't put a check mark in the box, it's not going to work. Then I press save, and now when I close out and look at my screen, look at the very top of the screen, and what you're going to see is I've got the call forward icon up here. So what that's telling me is if a call comes into this phone, it's going to be call forwarded elsewhere. So I'm going to call the phone just so you can see it. So I call over here to 2241. See, it's ringing over here, and it's telling the person, it says always from 2241. So I know this is a call that's been forwarded, but I can answer it from here. So to turn the call forwarding off, I'm just going to go back into the settings, come over to call forward, and then all I'm going to have to do is I'll take the check mark out the box, and then I can press save. And when I close out, you see the call forward icon is gone. Now, some of you might have a question concerning what happens to the caller if I've got my phone call forwarded over here, but maybe they don't answer it because they've gone to lunch. Whose voicemail does that call go into? The call will revert back to my voicemail because the system knows that it was a call that was forwarded from my phone. So that's call forwarding. Now, that's the main things under the setting key that I think you would use. If we continue on down the phone, this right here is your volume bar. So it's going to raise the volume depending and lower it, depending on whether I'm in speaker mode, and raise and lower it. If I'm in handset mode, or if I'm in headset mode. Or if it's ringing, it's just you have to be using that function to adjust it. So if the phone was ringing and I started adjusting the volume, it's not going to adjust the volume of the handset, it's going to adjust the volume of the call ringing in. Then over here on the right-hand side of the phone, the red handset is really the same thing. It's just quick dial tone. So if I'm in speaker mode and I want to hang up, I can just hit there instead of hanging up the phone. The key below it, the circular arrow, that's a similar thing to redial, which is up in the screen. You see here it says redial. If I press this redial button, it's going to call the number showing here. But if I press this one, it's going to take me back into call history, but instead of taking me to missed calls, it's taking me to outgoing. So it's letting me see all the outgoing calls that I've made. I can come over here and I can toggle down, find the one I want, and then I can press dial and it'll call that person back. Now, below the redial, we know the one that looks like a pause button is really your personal hold key. And then the mic with the line through it, this is the mute key. And this will mute if you're in handset mode and you press it, or if you're in speaker mode and you press it, it will mute the caller. Though there's a red light beside it. So you see it lights up. When it's like that, I can hear the caller, but they can't hear me. And then the last key down here we know is the speaker key or the headset key. So that's all the main functions on the just basic phone handling without getting into voicemail. Hopefully this has been a helpful tutorial for you on just basic phone handling. And next I will cover the voicemail. We are now going to talk about the voicemail. You should be able to see my screen, and on my screen I have just a little kind of quick reference guide for you. Now, earlier when we were learning about the phone, I showed you the little voicemail key, which was a fixed key on the left-hand side that had the two circles. So to set up your voicemail, I'm going to press the key so you can hear it.
Welcome, 2240. Please enter your passcode.
And everybody's default passcode is 1111.
Welcome to your new Express Messenger mailbox. Before you can begin using your mailbox, there are 3 things you must do. First, to ensure your privacy, you must select a passcode. Next, you will be asked to record your name. Finally, you must record a personal mailbox greeting. If you are ready to begin, press 1.
So you see she's going to walk you through setting up your mailbox. So you're not going to want to do this on speakerphone. You are going to want to do it with either a handset or a headset. But you're going to go in and you will come up with a passcode that you can remember. Then when you do your greeting, you're going to want to come up with something simple but that is professional sounding. I normally, for mine, I just tell them, hi, you've reached the voice message box of Tina Maxim. I'm in the office today, but currently unavailable. If you would like to leave me a message, please do so, and I'll return your call as soon as possible. And then that way, they know I'm there, I'm not on vacation, and that I am going to call them back. Then after I get the message set up, then I'm going to also have to put in my name, and you will put in your first and last name. Now, this is the quick reference guide. So once you have your mailbox set up, 90% of you, when you go in, what you're going to do after you put in your passcode is press 7 to play your messages. And then these are your options for playing the messages. Now, something that the system is never going to prompt you on is down here where it says fast forward and rewind. She's never going to say press star to rewind, but you do need to know this feature is available. I think it's one you probably would use quite a bit. People have a tendency when they are leaving phone numbers, they speak very quickly. So sometimes you get maybe the area code and that's it. So if you press the star key while the message is playing, it will rewind it 5 seconds. And you can keep pressing that star key as many times as you need to get the information. The pound key works exactly the same, but moves you forward. So once you listen to the message, you could discard it, or you could keep it, or you could forward it. What you'll notice is the voicemail is driven by the alphabet that is on the key. So like for discard or delete, some of you might say, you see the D key is on the 3 button on your phone. So to play the message, the P is on the 7 key. So that's how the numbers are chosen. but you could listen to the message, forward it on to somebody. Now, if you are forwarding it on to someone, you would be forwarding it. It would tell you if you press that you want to forward it, it will let you leave an introductory message for that person, and you would be forwarding it to their mailbox. So that would be their extension. Another couple quick things to go over is user options over here. This is where if you need to go in and change your greeting, maybe you're going to go on vacation or something, then when you go into the system after you put in your passcode, you're going to press 8 for user options, and the very first choice will be greeting. You could do a temporary greeting, but whether you do the temporary or the main greeting, you do have to turn it on and off. It's not like you can't set a time and say, okay, I want this to come on today, but I want it to turn off in 6 days. You will have to go in and change over to the other greeting. I normally just go over my regular greeting. It's just quicker for me. But all those types of what they call personal features are in user options. Your voicemail can be accessed from off-site. There's a couple ways you can get to it. If you have a personal direct dial number, which is what we call a DID, then you could call the DID, and then when you hear your greeting kick in, you'll press the star key, and then the system will walk you through it. If your company has a backdoor number, which is what we call it, to the voicemail, then you could call that, and you could get into your voicemail through the backdoor number. But I would recommend, if you're going to be checking your messages from offsite, make sure that once the system is up and running and the voicemail is there, leave yourself a message and then try to access it from your cell phone to make sure that you're comfortable doing so. And that is the basics on the voicemail. This concludes our training on the Mitel 6930 desktop device with embedded voicemail. Have a great day.